The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ald and Blumkin, and I'm here with my good friend David Nemec for another session of David Nemec's baseball history and statistics. Welcome, David.
Pleasure to be with you again, Al.
Okay. You can state what we're going to talk about today.
Well, we're looking at, with the Major League Baseball has mostly gone the way of the NBA and the NFL in their playoff scheduling, and the percentage of the best at the time, the best team is going to win in the postseason is much less in baseball now than it used to be. It certainly throughout history, the best team didn't always win the pennant. There were years I can point to 1906 when Cleveland had they had won the team triple crown: best fielding average, best ERA, best batting average, and they finished third. Not a very good third at that. And the White Sox won the pennant with an iffy team that had a hot streak. They set American League record for the most consecutive wins, and they won what was considered kind of a fluky pennant. And then they faced the Cubs in the World Series, and the Cubs set an all-time record with 116 wins, and ended up losing the series. So I don't think there's anybody here, nobody here today could possibly have even seen, listened to, or rebroadcast or anything of that game. And most of you could have read about the series. And but I don't think any of us can state that the White Sox were the best team that year and make a case for it. They happened to get, the Cubs had deep pitching, solid team, and the White Sox had a couple guys who got hot. A guy named George Rowe came out of nowhere to fill in at third base, and they got some good performances from guys who really never did much otherwise. And they won a fluke series, but you can't point to too many other seasons where the weaker team won the series. And
you can throw a few obvious. 1954 was one. The greatest Brooklyn Dodger team that these historians consider was in 1953, and the Yankees beat them.
Yeah.
In the World Series, I think the Orioles, when they lost to the Mets, won 109 games.
Yeah, they did.
And I think what about the A's team that lost to the Cardinals in 1931?
They were probably a better team if they played. Yeah. If they played best.
Another one that won over 100 that lost was the 46 Red Sox.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Williams. That was I think that was mostly due to Williams getting hurt, getting hit by a pitch in kind of a practice game prior to the World Series. There was a fairly long stretch of days off before the series started for the Red Sox, and he got hit by a pitch and wasn't the hitter that he could have been, and it was the only chance he ever had to showcase his talent in the postseason. And that was tremendously unfortunate. And,
the 90s, yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The Yankees in 1963 won, I think it was 104, and they lost that series swept by the Dodgers in that series.
Yeah.
So it's happened. This is not something that was, a one-time thing.
But it's not a team winning 109 games getting beat by a team that wins 84. And
no.
That's what the Diamondbacks have won this year. And going into today, the Diamondbacks are as good a bet as any other team, I think. And the Rangers Houston series, I think Houston will win. And right now, I think the Phillies got their heads handed to them after an easy first game win, and now they're going to have to scrap.
Well, in the 1973 National League Series, 1973 National League Championship Series, the Mets won 82 games, 82 and 79, won the Eastern Division. Cincinnati won 98 games during the regular season for the West, and the Mets beat them in the LCS. And virtually the same thing happened when Minnesota played Detroit in the 1987 LCS. So it's happened even, but when they went to the two divisions in 1969, you can accept it because the teams had to win something.
Yeah.
You know, the NL East Division in 1973 was bad. The Pirates, who had won 3 straight, Clemente had been killed in a plane crash, and Blast couldn't get anybody out anymore. But you had to win something. You had to win a division. And
you had to win the division, and if you won the division, I don't remember exactly how the schedule was set up then. But you were playing mostly in interdivisional games. And,
it was 18 and 12. It was 18 and 12 until the expansion, the American League expansion in 1977.
Okay, so, they're playing 18 and
then 12 out. Yeah.
So, it was... So they're playing 5 times 18. What's that? 90 games
90
against
90 and 12 times 6 is 72.
Their own division.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Mets had the best interdivision record or not in 83 or 73, but if they did, there you go right there. I mean, and you can also say that they really had to scrap harder to make the postseason than the Reds did. And that may have contributed to a kind of fluky win too. And but
after the National League in 1993 brought in the Marlins and the Rockies, then in 1994 they decided to have 3 divisions and a wild card. And that season got wiped out, but I remember visiting my mother in Texas. In fact, the convention, SABR convention, was in Arlington, Texas that summer, and I went to visit her for a week after that ended. And Texas was leading the Western Division. They were 10 games under 500. And fans were booing the hell out of them. And some players said, well, they should, cheer for us because we're in first place, and that being 10 games under 500 didn't matter. But, of course, that season was wiped out by the strike.
Yeah, what would be interesting if it had finished. We'll never know if they would have come back even close to a 500 record. But again, I don't remember what the schedule was like then either. But I imagine there mostly were interdivisional games, and they would have had to somehow at least come out of 500 or better within their division in order to win, I would think.
And in 1981 they had the split season because of that mid-season strike. Yeah. And somebody said, well, play that. I said, this isn't new. They had it in the National League in 1892. And people were looking at me like I'm nuts.
Yeah, but in 1892, they played a full schedule.
Yeah.
In 1981, they did not. So, and in 1892, it's Boston won the first half. They had a 12-team National League, and they were looking at, they were grappling. The National League and the American Association had merged prior to the 92 season. They were grappling with a 12-team league. What are they going to do here? I mean, how are they going to make things interesting if a team gets out to a whopping 10-game lead early in the season? The interest is pretty much over, so they decided to try a split season. And why they abandoned that idea, I really don't know. There was talk that the reason was because they thought that Boston deliberately lost the second half of the season so that Cleveland could get the other berth, because Cleveland came in, they squeaked by in the second half, and they did have a series which Boston won easily, because Boston was by far the superior team that year. Whether there's any truth to that, it's difficult to establish. There certainly was no smoking gun where you can say, well, Boston set out to deliberately not finish first. And come what may, whoever finished first was going to face them in the first round. And it's also there's some truth to thinking that, well, we won the first, so we're going to get into the playoffs regardless, or we're going to win it straight out if we win the second half. So they really might not have pushed that hard. And as a result, I think they did. I think that is the season they got rid of Clarkson, and Clarkson came over to Cleveland. They were still a superior team in '92, and they were the superior team in the '90s. Even though today, looking back, most historians viewing that whole scope of the decade point to the Orioles as being the superior team. If you look at the overall record year by year, Boston was far and away the strongest club throughout the decade, and it was the last decade ever in the National League that Boston even came close to being the best team. They were never again more than even mildly competitive in most decades after that.
Well, we can do a whole program on the Boston National League franchise. But one of the things that happened, I think, that really started screwing the system up was the fact when they brought in a second wild card. Because before that, you had the best team playing the wild card team and the second playing the third, which was relatively tolerable. Okay, but when they brought in the first wild card and the second wild card, they started giving division winners, the top two division winners, buys and had them sit around for a week. Yeah, and they expanded the wild card game from one game. When they first started the one wild card, they had the second wild card. The second wild card will play one game with the first wild card, and then they would go on to play the team with the number one record. Yeah. But then so the team with the best record didn't have any time off because the wild card was a one game. Yeah. Okay, and now when they expanded it to two and started having buys, like they do in the pro football, you had teams sitting around for a week, and people pointed out that baseball is a day-to-day game. You sit around for a week, you can lose your sharpness, which is obviously what happened to the Orioles, the Braves, and the Dodgers. One of the Twins too. You could say it happened to the Twins because they all lost. I mean, they come right. Yeah. Except for Houston. Houston's the only, and they really tied in terms of win and loss percentage. Yeah. But they gave it to them because of the They let it head. And then of course, with Selig they had that stupid thing for a bunch of years where the team that got the home field advantage of the World Series was the team whose league won the All-Star game, which is one of the dumbest things. That's almost up there with the Cubs College of Coaches. Yeah, it was, but they had to give some meaning to the All-Star game, which is becoming a farce. And it is a farce. Yeah, it is. Yeah. The home run derby is probably attracts, I would say almost five times as much interest as the game itself.
And if you really want to watch guys just go out there and batting practice and hit them out, then that's your cup of tea. Then more power to you. If you want to watch an All-Star game the way it was in the 40s and 50s, you're never going to see one like that again. Because in 40s and 50s they played to win, and the leagues were separate.
Yeah. You couldn't see Stan Musial playing in the American League, Ted Williams in the National League, Mickey Mantle in the National League, Willie Mays in the American League. There wasn't the superstars didn't move around the way they do now.
Yeah, they didn't. And I really think they should dispense with the mid-season All-Star game, and it's and I don't understand why the NBA has one either. I think they should dispense with that. And the hockey All-Star game, they all three should dispense with it.
Well, for the pro football got rid of the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, they got rid of the Pro Bowl, which is a smart move.
Yeah.
But
the NBA is talking about going back to conference All-Star games. Yeah.
Well,
because the last several years they had two of the superstars choose up sides like we used to do in the school year.
Yeah, I know. Well, it made for more, more fun.
Yeah, when you have the NBA All-Star game, the over or under in points is somewhere around 350.
Yeah.
Nobody plays defense.
Nobody. No, you're right. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's.
There was a rookie last year that got chewed out for playing defense in that game. Some of the parents go up to says we don't play defense in this game.
No, well, they didn't play much defense in the Pro Bowl either after a while.
Yeah,
but nobody wanted to get hurt. And,
the last time I watched the baseball All-Star game was in 1981 when they came back from the strike. Somebody said, why? I said, because there's people move between leagues, and if I want to see pitchers 1 or 2 innings, I can watch any game.
Yeah. No, it's true. And but getting back to the best team winning, and in baseball, it happens less frequently than it does in other sports. I don't think there's much question of that. That the best overall team. I don't know I have no way, and no, I don't think anyone really has a good way of measuring or devising a system by which you can measure what the best team even is going into the series. And with the the DL list as long as it is now, you might just look at the healthiest team that qualified and pick that team. And especially the healthiest team with the healthiest pitching staff. I was looking at the matchups in today's games, and some of these pitching matchups are unbelievable. I can't believe they're going. Yeah, these are guys I've never heard of who have terrible win-loss records and astronomical ERAs and. Are they really that short of arms in the postseason, or am I missing something? I don't understand.
Well, basically, for the last month or two of the season, when I get the paper in the morning, I check how many starters had ERAs of over 5, and every day you could find at least almost 10. Out of the 30 teams, starting pitchers that have ERAs of over 5. It was unbelievable.
What's unbelievable is I don't know where these ERAs come from, because the hitting, the batting averages, I guess it comes from home runs. Period.
Oh yeah.
And that's the only way. That's the only way that if you're a guy who really is miserly with home runs. And you have a decent arm and a way of taking care of it, and you're on a good team. I can't see any way but you're going to have a fairly decent ERA. You're going to get through the season and probably lead your team into the postseason. A guy like Greg Maddux is worth a fortune, I think, today. If you could take any team, and if I had to pick one pitcher from the last 30 or 40 years to have in my staff, it might be Maddox in 1995, and
Pedro Martinez, one of those years.
Pedro Martinez in 2001. Yeah, those are the guys. And
but look, for example, you know what the Dodgers did in the third game of this series that they lost to Arizona? They started a pitcher named Lance Lynn, who was something like 14 and 13 with a 5.72 ERA. They picked him up from the White Sox in midseason. He led the major leagues in home runs allowed, which was with 44. And they started him, and obviously he threw 4 home run balls, and he lasted about 3 innings. He threw 4 home run balls in his 3 innings, and they wound up getting clubbed in that game. But this is what they reduced to. Everybody needs starting pitching. And a lot of these teams, once they get to game 3 of a series, they have problems.
Well, but last year Cleveland got to the second round of the playoffs, and they had three fairly good starters that took them that deep. They didn't. Their hitting was execrable, and their offense was pretty bad all the way around. And that showed up again this year. They had the bad offense, and all 3 of their arms went down early and went down for most of the season. I don't think their 3 number 1 pitchers, McKenzie, Quantrill, and Bieber, I don't even know if they won 10 games combined. I don't think they did. And they all were on the DL for or a large part, if not all, of the season. McKenzie hardly pitched at all, and Quantrill, and I know that Bieber missed a lot of time. And
the Dodgers had Tom Zacco told me, he's a big Dodger fan, that Kershaw led them in innings pitched this year with 134. They had 4 starters out, three with injuries, and 1 who was suspended for domestic violence. So they basically had no starters. And you keep bringing these relief pitchers every day. These same relief pitchers, eventually, they're going to start getting clobbered also.
So is Trevor Bauer still a member of the Dodgers?
No, they cut him when all the legal stuff started. He played in Japan this past season. Okay,
all right. I wonder what happened to him. Yeah, but
the Yankees had several starting pitchers who were hurt. They signed this Rodon for $162 million for 6 years. He pitched the last couple of weeks of the season. He was terrible. That's Cortez, who was one of their aces in 2022, pitched about 5 games this year.
Yeah.
And these pitchers blow their arms out.
I don't understand what's going on. I really don't understand how there can be, Tommy John surgery. I mean, when it came in with Job, and first came through with it with John. And then people realized the elbow. It was a way to repair an elbow. A lot of guys had blown their whole careers just with an elbow injury. There was no way to heal it, and you had to replace it with another ligament, tendon, or whatever it is they use. And now Tommy John surgeries are astronomical. They're just astronomical. And if you
look back before that, there were plenty of pitchers in the 40s, 50s, and 60s that come down with bad arms, and that was essentially a career ending.
Well, torn rotator cuffs were a lot of that. That's repairable now too, and. But there are some of these arm injuries that are irreparable, and there's these kids go down. They're 21 years old. Their second year, they're already looking at their second Tommy John surgery, and 3-year period, and where can their careers go? And that's pretty much the way it is. So even through high school and college, everybody just tries to throw hard. A pitcher like Eddie Lopat could make hundreds of millions of dollars now.
The little left-handers, because I have a friend of mine who's close to Bobby Shantz, who was just turned 98 in the end of last month, and still has his marbles. He still does card shows down there occasionally.
That's amazing.
And pitchers like Ford and Lopat and Pierce and Shantz and Haddix, the small lefties, they wouldn't even be looked at today.
No, they wouldn't.
Well,
they wouldn't. Yeah, and it's a shame.
Yeah, but the thing is one of the things that I think I mentioned one of the podcasts we did. If they decide to go to 32, then you'll have 8 4-team divisions.
Yeah.
It'll be just like football, and you'll have 16 teams make the playoffs like basketball and hockey. The World Series will start in mid-November and be played on either a neutral field or a warm weather field or a dome field.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to do that.
And then they'll realign it geographically.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what they're going to do to, make the game anywhere near as intriguing.
If we're around in another, 5-10 years, we won't. I don't think we'll recognize it.
No, we won't. It's already. I haven't been to a game for a number of years now, and we've talked about games in the not too distant past that we talked about the Seattle Convention, Sabre Convention game, and those games are gone. You're never going to see a game like that again, and it's just it's a shame because and the skills and and we talked about the lack of fundamentals it's just incredible to see some. I do watch it when I do watch stuff on the field, which isn't that often, but I'll tune in and generally I'll see something so bizarre I almost can't believe it because they just don't have they aren't addressing fundamentals in the minor leagues. There are no minor league experiences to speak of. I mean, most of the guys are coming directly from college. Maybe they get a little bit of seasoning in the minors, and they're thrown in.
Also, all the Latins, that come in. I don't know if many of them have seasoning, but still, I've seen some very, very dumb plays over the year. But still, the creme de la creme was in the Pirate Cub game in 2021, where the Pirates are in the field. The third baseman fields a ball and throws the ball to the first baseman, who was a couple of feet off the bag. The first baseman decides to run the guy who bunted the ball down between first and home. When I heard about this thing, I went to YouTube. I watched it more than a dozen times. I still couldn't believe what I was seeing. The first baseman wound up in the Korean League.
Yeah, I can believe it. I'm waiting for a rundown between the pitcher's mound and second base. That'll happen one of these years. Watch. I almost guarantee it's going to happen.
And the first Baltimore game, they're losing by a run. The leadoff guy gets a hit. And, they got some guys coming up. They can tie the game up. And the runner decides to try to steal second base.
I read about that. The manager denied that there was a signal on the steal. And did the players say there was? That he thought there was? I don't even remember I don't remember the manager's name. I don't know enough about the players anymore to know who was involved. But I did read about the play.
There's a rookie named Gunnar Henderson who's a very good player generally. But the thing that drives me crazy is they don't advance runners. And what really drives me nuts is when a pitcher is walking people, a batter gets up and starts swinging.
Yeah.
And the poster boy for all of this is Kyle Schwarber of the Phillies, who leads off, who hit 47 home runs, drove in 104 runs, scored over 100 runs, and hit 197.
I know.
The best season ever by somebody that didn't hit 200.
Well, it's the best, most productive season ever by a leadoff hitter.
Yeah.
Under 200. And and we can't say with any kind of certainty that his record is even going to last 2 or 3 years, because somebody else is going to come along and do something equally as bizarre. And and the one game I watched in its entirety was a game between the Braves and the Phillies. The only game I watched all year, one of the playoff games. There were 4 runs in the game. And there were 4 solo homers, 3 by the Phillies. Castellanos hit 2. I can't remember who hit the other one, and somebody on the Braves hit 1. That was all the scoring there was. There were runners on base, ways of advancing them. There was a wild pitch with the bases loaded. The guy in third base didn't score, and announcers said, "Well, it wasn't really worth the risk because there were 2 runs down." Well, it was really worth the risk, because when there were 2 runs down coming into the bottom of the 9th, they had a runner on third base with less than 2 out. And there was a fly ball to left field, a short fly ball. Eddie Rosario hit it, and the left fielder caught it coming in. And the runner on third, it was the coach's decision. This would have been the coach's decision if you're playing for 1 run to tie and 1 run to keep the series going, whether to send that guy or not. Most coaches would have sat on it and not sent him. I would have sent him, because of the fundamentals, the lack, and the throw home was way offline. The guy could have scored if he had, and the announcers made nothing of it. And I don't think they referred back to the fact that I think it was Pilar who was on third base. If he had scored,
I remember that.
It would have made it 3-2. And
3-2,
to the bottom of the 9th, down 3-2. Runner on third, short fly ball to the left. You've got to send the guy. You've got to take a chance. He has more chance of scoring from third base, I would almost guarantee you, than the next batter does of driving that run in with 2 out. Yeah, I think the percentages, they're not in your favor. They're definitely not in your favor. But the chances of the guy up next getting a base hit with batting averages down around the low 240s and 250s at most, and I don't know who the next guy up would have been, but and whoever it was didn't score anything anyway. But actually they sent up that pinch hitter. I think that ended the game. The pinch hitter, that kid came up and took a half swing at a third strike, and it was a rookie with the Braves, and they had nobody else to send up. They were caught short of a pinch hitter with a guy on third base.
That's the way when you're carrying 13, 14 pitchers, you're going to have a very short bench.
So they got caught. They got caught by not sending Pilar in. They got caught by not, and they would have had a chance to tie the game, and probably sat on that chance stupidly, not realizing. The third base coach probably was not thinking ahead enough to realize, I've got to send this guy on a fly ball, because the next hitter is going to be this kid who's going to have to pinch hit. And this kid is way out of his depth here coming up in that situation. So I've got to send the guy, and I'll take the flack. If he doesn't score, I'll say it was my decision. And if he scores, of course I'm gold, because he scores the tying run and on a short fly ball. And those are the kinds of things. And with you don't see the kind of judgment, player judgment on the field. You don't see plays like you saw. Like you saw this game. You were at the game in the 1960 World Series, when
I
Mantle
snuck
was
in.
at
I watched
first base.
the first day.
Mantle was,
Yeah. The I was there to see the play in the top of the ninth.
yeah, playing the top of the ninth for a shot to Rocky Nelson, and Rocky Nelson stepped on first base and then was going to go to second, but Mantle was on first base. Mantle hesitated just enough. And so that when Nelson went to turn around to throw to second, Mantle dove back into first. But Nelson would have had to tag him, and that was because he removed the force. Play. And I remember that as one of the key moments. To me, that was the highlight, one of the biggest highlights in Mickey Mantle's career. I can't remember.
I asked him. Well, when I interviewed Dick Rote in 1985. I asked him what he thought would have happened if Dick Stewart had been playing first base. And he said to me, let's not go there.
Yeah, well, Stewart probably would have fumbled the ball or dropped it.
Yeah.
And Mantle would have been caught. What do I do? He dropped the ball. And Stewart then, I played senior league ball. I had to play just like that. And I deliberately dropped the ball. And I did get a double play out of it. And I don't know if this was in a practice game, in a scrimmage game, and that's the only time I ever had that play. I had the experience of having that play happen to me. But whether an umpire would have said, and he could have said that's considered a catch, and the runner can come back to the runner is out, and it's. I don't know. They would have, they considered. I think they did that in the series with a line drive that Bill Russell dropped in '78 series. That they considered that a catch he could have made, and there was a play I remember when Jackson was scrambling between bases, and the throw hit Jackson.
That was the fourth game. The weather. I was at all those games in '76 through '78. The Yankee LDS and LCS and the World Series games, and in that fourth game, a front came through. The game Friday night, game 3 was a beautiful weather. Front came through, and I'm standing near one of the entrances because it really got cold and I wasn't prepared for it. And I saw Jackson take the ball on the hip, and Tom Lasorda went absolutely bonkers.
It was to me. It was obvious. It was obvious interference, and obviously he should have been out. And I was shocked when he got away with it. But you had to try it. You tried it and you got away with it. And I regard that as more. I remember that about Reggie Jackson more than I do his 3 home run game. I saw both.
No, is it that? Yeah.
To me, what he did in that play stood out more than the 3 home runs. And then, and the Mantle play, I remember those plays from the series, and the Billy Martin catching that pop fly.
I saw that.
The only guy
I was 9. Yeah, because he was the only one that had a chance, and they were all running. There was 2 out, and the Dodgers were all running around the bases.
Right.
And to me, that season was the pivotal season of winning 5 because not only did they beat the Indians out by 2 games, they both won 19-5 in September, but they only played each other once.
Well,
and the Yankees won the last 2 games of that series in Ebbets Field.
Yeah, I know that was that. But that Martin catch.
Yeah.
I was not watching the game. I've only seen reruns of it. But I've seen that catch, and I remember that. And I was watching the '51 series when Stanky kicked the ball out of Rizzuto's glove at second base, and I remember those plays much more than I remember any of the home runs or the walk-offs, whatever's. Yeah, those are the plays that stand out in my mind. Where these are performed by guys who were thinking. They were heads-up plays. They had their heads in the game. Like Pilar, I don't know where Pilar's head was at, but he should have tried to score on his own. He didn't need a coach to tell him to get in there, because it would have taken a hell of a throw to get him out at the plate, and the pitcher wasn't even scrambling in that fast. So
yeah, it's funny because
would have had to been a perfect play to get him out at the plate.
in Game 7 in 1952, the Yankees had gone through Reynolds, Lopat, Reschy, and Lopat because Reschy could never pitch in relief. He was a terrible relief pitcher when they brought him in. So with one out in the seventh inning, they bring in Bob. He brings in Bob Cassava. The reason he brought Bob Cassava in was because Duke Snider was up, and Cassava had fairly good success against Snider in the International League. So Cassava wound up pitching 2 2/3 innings of shutout ball in that series, and they wound up winning it.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the individual moments those are the individual moments that are indelible for me, and they don't involve a home run. They really don't. You know, Joe Carter's walk-off home run that won the series for the Blue Jays. I remember seeing it and remarking on it to myself. I don't think I've ever seen a walk-off home run deciding a World Series before.
There's only been 2 of them.
Yeah, well, I don't.
I saw. In fact, a little secret.
Yeah.
I put this on the Corsair Tales of Pirate history Facebook group way back when. Not only did I interview Grote for 4 hours, I did a podcast with Ralph Terry. And before a card show in 1987, I got there early and spoke at length with Johnny Blanchard, who was catching there because Howard was hurt and Barrow was in the outfield. So I got all these perspectives on the end of that series, the last couple of innings of that series, and I did a whole dissertation on it. And Blanchard was steaming 27 years about Jim Coates.
Yeah.
He said we all knew that Jim Coates, Hal Smith was a dead fastball hitter because he had spent the previous 5 years in the American League with the Orioles and A's.
Yeah.
And Blanchard said he's signaling Coates to throw breaking balls. Coates is shaking him off. He goes out to the mound and he says, his coach says, I'm going to throw him a fastball. So Blanchard gets fed up. He says, throw your fastball. He threw his fastball, and Smith hit it over the fence for a 3-run homer.
Yeah.
And then he said that after the series was over, they were all, in shock. And it says, Coach goes over to Ralph Terry and says, thanks for getting me off the hook.
Yeah.
I was able to broach this with Ralph Terry because it was a lot easier because the fact that he shut the Giants out in Game 7 in 1962.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. One of the other memory of mine that's most vivid is the end of the '62 series when McCovey lined out to Richardson at second base. And that ball, if it had been a couple inches either way, that would have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were runners on second and third at the time.
Yeah, Maris made a throw at the top of in that inning that held the runner at third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do dimly remember that, but I remember that line drive when I left the bat. The series was going to be over on that hit. That was it. That was the final moment of the season. I knew it as soon as I left the bat. If it's a hit, they're going to score 2 runs and win the series. If it's caught, it's over. This went fleeting right through my mind as soon as it left the bat, and it was caught, and the Yankees ended up winning. It's that close, but it's the only series I remember ending that way. When a ball that could have gone either way, and if it had been a base hit, one team wins. If it wasn't a base hit, the other team wins. And instead of no walk off, but just they had to score the winning run. They had to score it, and I think they would have scored it, but I don't know. And then The thing I remember, well, I always remember most in the postseason about Barry Bonds was his throw from left field when.
Don't bring that up.
Yeah, when.
Although that was a very. I walked around days after that one. Yeah.
I can imagine because I saw that.
Because I know he and Drayback were leaving as free agents after that.
Yeah, the Braves first baseman was steaming around third base.
Sid Bream, who was on the Pirates the previous 2 years.
Yeah, Sid Bream, and I'm looking. I mean, I know they're going to send this guy. I was watching that game. I know they're going to send him, and he's good. And a decent throw is good. They're going to nail him. And the throw, the camera didn't quite have the right angle because it didn't show the complete throw. It showed Bonds making the catch and Bonds making the throw, but it didn't follow the ball completely, and I didn't realize how bad the throw was until I saw the replays. And that's my moment of treasure I will carry around about Barry Bonds. When the chips were down, when he really could have done something to turn the series around, he didn't. He really came through in a big way for the other team, and that ended up sending the Braves to the series, and it ended up being a great series. I mean, that seventh game of that series was one of the classic games.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
Well, I remember watching the final game of the 1972 LCS. In those days, it was 5 games between the Pirates and the Reds. The Pirates took a 1-run lead into the 9th inning.
Oh yeah,
the game was in Cincinnati, and Ramon Hernandez, who was retired, decided in order. In the bottom of the 8th for the Pirates, they bring in Justy. Justy serves up a home run to bench to tie the game, and then they bring in Bob Moose, and he blows it, and he puts 2 men on. And Justy was the so-called closer. It was the same thing when I spoke to my friend Al Anderson in 1997 when they took Mike Jackson out. The Indians took Mike Jackson out, who had pitched very, very well, and they brought in Jose Mesa.
And that was terrible.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah. I called them right after the game. I said, were they nuts? Yeah.
Yeah, they were. And they also had a chance to sacrifice, and Alomar could not put down a bunt to get the runner over to third, and he would have scored. I think there was only 1 out. They could maybe there were no outs in a runner in second. I can't remember. In the top of the 9th, and they could have gotten an insurance run with a sacrifice that would have moved the runner to third. And
we
couldn't get it down.
We've got to end this, so we run out of time.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
can you hold on for a minute after I log out?
Okay, sure.
Thank you, everybody.
It's been a pleasure again. From my
Same
angle,
here.
Hold
on for a second.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.